Slimehouse TV, myself Theo Kane, hope everybody is good. Hold tight the Slime Alliance, the Slime Renegades and everybody else that's locked in and supporting. So in today's episode, I'm going to tell you about a recent trip that we took out to a little place in Doncaster called Doorway To Dorkness. At least a place that I thought was little until I got there and realised it was a lot bigger than I anticipated. We actually went there to pick up Resident Evil 1 and 2 on PlayStation disc for the recent Resident Evil Toy Biz documentary that I did, but by the time we got there we soon realised this was a lot bigger than we thought it was and there was a lot more going on, so yeah, was definitely pleasantly surprised with this place and I can't wait to tell you how we got on. Let's do this! Slimehouse TV, myself Theo Kane. Hold tight everybody that's locked in. Shouts to Roxy on cam, bentlegs on wheels. We're meeting Judd when we get there. We're on a little mission to a place called Doorway To Dorkness in Doncaster. On a retro game hunt today, something I've never done before. Usually we're all about the retro toys on this channel, but I'm also a big retro game fan and I'm specifically going here today to find something for a documentary that will have hopefully been released by the time that this video's out. So the first thing I noticed when I got there was how fortified this place was. To get in this building, you've even got to knock and wait for them to let you in through an electronic keypad. And I'm just thinking, if they've gone to this much effort to wrap barbed wire around the roof of this thing and cage all the windows off and stuff, I can't wait to see what treasure's inside. Now, like I said, I was just expecting this place to be like a little retro game shop, and I'm not somebody that does a lot of retro game hunting. I was specifically there for two reasons, Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2. I like going to retro game shops, but I haven't been to that many, so I was just expecting this to be a place that's full of SNES games, Game Boy cartridges and that kind of thing, but boy was I surprised. When I walked in, I realised that not only was this place a lot bigger than I thought it was, there was also an entire retro toy section. So yeah, I was a little bit thrown off there when we arrived because we'd only gone there for two reasons, to pick up Resident Evil 1 and 2 and also do a little bit of filming that I was going to use in the making of video that I just dropped. But when I got there and I saw the amount of toys that they had, I was a little bit like, wow, I wasn't expecting this. We thought we were going to be in and out in 10 minutes and I'm thinking this is definitely going to be a couple hours that we're spending here today. The first cabinet that really caught my eye was the Monster in My Pocket cabinet. So I love Monster in My Pockets and minifigures, and they had some carded ones, they had some wrestlers ones, and then they also had some Monster in My Pockets howlers. Now I've been wanting to add some Monster in My Pocket howlers to my collection for a long time. I really like these figures. I had them as a kid and I've never picked them up since. They're literally just one single solid piece of plastic rubber kind of thing with a voice box inside, and when you press them they make weird noises and their eyes light up. They're very basic, they're very simple, but I want them. So seeing them there has also got me thinking, oh, I'm probably going to be bringing them home today as well. They also had a couple of nice carded Reboot figures. The old Reboot CGI cartoon, the real dark one that made references to Evil Dead and loads of popular games like Mortal Kombat and stuff at the time. And I've been wanting to put a collection of these together for a while, wanting to do a video on them. And every time I see them around, they're usually quite cheap and I've never really pulled the trigger on them. So that's something that I've also got my eyes on when I walk into this place, because he's got a couple of them really nice carded as well. They've also got a real mad mix of stuff at this place, lots of different eras. We've got box Transformers, we've got box Bandai Power Rangers, a bunch of Tomb Raider figures that you would never get away with making today. Lots of interesting stuff. Like I said, I thought we was only coming here to do a little bit of filming to add to the making of. I was very tired, I'd had literally no sleep, I'd been working on this diorama non-stop for like 3 weeks. I was not in a good mind frame to be talking and lively to camera, and I thought this was just going to be, like I said, a quick in and out, like a quick hour. But obviously once I got there and it was a lot bigger than I thought it was, I had to like switch out of that like dreaded mind frame, that grim mind frame that I was in where I was tired and felt grim, and yeah, start talking to camera and just enjoy the fact that I was surrounded by all this cool retro stuff that I didn't expect to see. So we're here, and what's thrown me off is I didn't expect them to have so many retro toys, vintage toys, so I'm starting to get distracted and look at the thing that I'd normally look for, but you can't not when you've got such an awesome selection, so maybe I'll be
Maybe I'll be bringing home a vintage toy as well today or two, who knows.
Now this is a shop that obviously specialises in retro gaming, vintage consoles and vintage cartridges and discs and stuff for games, but they didn't just have the games, they had a lot of cool merchandise, they had a bunch of old consoles that you could just buy loose, they also had a ton of old gaming magazines. I love looking through them gaming magazines, they had a bunch of them as well, and if I wasn't so tired and in a mind frame where I wasn't in and out, then I would have took a lot longer to look through those magazines and maybe pull out a couple for myself, but I saw them all and I was just a bit like, I haven't even got the brain space to be looking through all those magazines right now. I'll save them for next time. Another thing that caught my eye was they had one of those PlayStation remake consoles. Now these are a console that not only are they a PlayStation with a bunch of games built in, but they're also really good for running emulators on. If you're like me and you love retro gaming, you'll never be able to own all the retro games that you could ever want. So emulation to me I think is a real good way to go back and try out a bunch of those rare games that you would never normally have the chance to play. So this is a real good way of doing that apparently. I've not got one yet and I would have been tempted to come home with it that day, but I was on a budget at this point, so I couldn't just be spending willy-nilly, but in the future I would definitely like to pick one of those up because from what I hear they're very good for running ROMs and emulators on and stuff like that. And if you're like me and you're a retro gamer and you haven't got the space to collect every single retro game in the world or the money to do that because the prices of this stuff's gone crazy now, they're apparently a really good option to try and do that. Now in terms of vintage gaming stuff, they had so much stuff, everything that you could ever want. Piles and piles of controllers and pads and joysticks, a bunch of old Amiga games, Sega CD games, and just a bunch of stuff for other consoles that people don't really talk about that much, stuff that's not as popular as the SNES and the Master System and all those like consoles that we hear talked about over and over. They had some real nice archive boxes for Atari collections. When the Atari came out, there were so many different shelf stackers and stuff that were sold specifically just for games, and they were a real nice one because I'd not seen them before. Lots of foreign stuff and lots of Japanese stuff for consoles that people never ever talk about, like some real obscure, real cool stuff. And the fact that I'm seeing this again in Doncaster, when I went to the Doncaster Toy Fair, I found a bunch of rare foreign stuff as well. So the fact I'm seeing this stuff again in Doncaster, I'm starting to think, yo, Doncaster might be like the epicenter of the UK to get hold of this foreign Japanese stuff. I'm just saying it now. Something else that was really nice to see, and it really reminded me of when I was last in Tokyo, because when I was last in Japan, although I didn't film a lot of the retro gaming shops, I did go to a lot of them, and their stuff, like all the toy shops and all the vintage shops and stuff like that, is all cleaned up and presented really nice. So all the games in there are wrapped and sealed in bags, and it's just a small thing, but it really makes you feel like you're buying something that's of higher quality than if it were just put on the shelf collecting dust. I was also tempted by the original PlayStations in the boxes. I've got like 4 PlayStations, but I don't have an original box for one. I didn't want to buy a whole other PlayStation just for the box, but it was really nice to see them as well, and something else that I was definitely tempted by. I was tempted by so much in this shop, and like I said, I only came here to buy 2 games for a PlayStation. And then they had some really cool modern stuff like the Cyberpunk Xbox exclusive with the real nice case. Like, I'd never seen one of them in person. They also had so many boxed original retro consoles, the SNES, the Master System, all of them. They had all of these boxed consoles, all looking nice in all the different variations. Obviously priced at the right price, but so nice to see.
Most people had like their console that they grew up with. For some people it's NES, some people it's Atari, some people love the SNES, and I love all those consoles and especially love the SNES. But for me, Sega Mega Drive / Genesis is where it's at for me personally. That's the console that I had as a kid. That was my personal console, and I've got lots of memories smashing lots of these games, and also smashing pads trying to complete them. But it's crazy because this place literally has like every title that I had as a kid and all the ones that I didn't. And for me, the artwork, it's like a time machine looking at this stuff.
When you're someone that's always surrounded by retro toys as well, it's nice to take a little step out of that world and just appreciate something else that's such a big part of that era, such a big part of the 80s and the 90s that went side by side with the toys. It's really given me a boost to want to check out some more of these shops in the future and some retro game fairs and stuff like that as well.
The Barcode Battler, I remember the TV show for it, the commercial, advertising a new game that you could cut a barcode off anything and it'd turn into a game, and as little naive kids would believe that it was real, and it kind of was and it kind of wasn't, and there was a lot of very disappointed kids that Christmas getting this thing and putting barcodes in it and expecting to play like actual games, and it was more just like some little calculator. But a classic piece nonetheless, and that box is something to me that's pretty iconic now. I love the robot on it. Maybe I'll have to design a toy that looks like that. The Barcode Battler.
So like I said, the reason that we came to this shop was to pick up Resident Evil 1 and 2 on PlayStation for the Toy Biz Resident Evil documentary. As a kid, I never had the original discs, all my games were chipped, so I didn't really have many games that were in the original PlayStation cases at the time. I've since picked a load up, but I don't have any of the Resident Evil games. I've got Dino Crisis and some other bangers, but I don't have any of the Resident Evils. Not on PlayStation anyway. I've got them on GameCube and stuff like that, it's a whole different thing, but original PlayStation games of them, I never had them, so I came to this shop specifically to pick those up. Another really cool thing that I liked about Doorway to Dorkness is I'd already kind of reserved these games in advance. I went on their website and I found that they had Resident Evil 1 and 2 on there, and I bought them, but they didn't take my money straight away. They gave me the option to actually go into store and pick them up. And not only go into store and pick them up, but I didn't have to pay for them on my card or my PayPal when I paid for them there. I could do it when I actually went into store. So it gave me the opportunity when I was in the shop to open them up and check that I was happy with the quality before purchasing them. So that was a real nice added bonus, I thought. Now, in terms of paying these kind of prices for PlayStation games, it's not something that I would ever normally do. Not because that's not what they're worth or that's not what they go for now. I am just not a big PlayStation collector like that. I was literally buying these for that video. And as you know, if you watch my making of and stuff, I had to have that out for the 24th. That was the date that the new Resident Evil game was coming out. So I was creating all this video with the deadline of dropping it on the day of Resident Evil. So I could have took the time to shop around and maybe go to some fairs and stuff and pick them up if I just wanted to add them to my collection casually, but I needed them. So I had to pay a higher price than what I would normally pay for this kind of thing. And like I said, at the time I was on a budget. I wasn't here to be spending willy-nilly. So I did pay a little higher price than what I would normally pay, but it was definitely worth it to be able to go to the shop and get them and to be able to add them to my video. And like I said, not taking anything away from the prices in the shop. If that's what this stuff's worth, if you're in that world of retro gaming and that's the prices these things go for, then that's the price that they sell for. And the fact that they were so nice and cleaned up in that plastic almost made me feel like I was paying for something new again, and made me a lot less resilient to paying a higher price for something that I normally wouldn't, just to feature in my video for a few seconds. While I was also there, I picked up some Warhammer paint that I needed because they sold all that stuff as well, so that was nice because there was some more stuff that I needed for the diorama. I'd just run out of technical paint, so it was really good to be able to buy some of that while I was there. And like I said, because I was on a budget, I chose not to pick up any other things while I was there. I didn't pick up any of the toys that I was looking at. I didn't pick up the PlayStation remake or anything like that. All stuff that I would have liked to come home with, but like I said, I was tired. I'd been working on this thing for like 3 weeks. I was on the final few days of pushing through to get it completed. So I kind of just wanted to buy the thing that I came for and get home so I could get back to working on the video. I also found out while we was on the way as well, because I phoned him, it was quite hard to find the location of the actual shop, and I spoke to the guy that owned it, and he wasn't even actually at the shop that day because he was down in London at a convention. So I found out from the guy as well inside the shop that a lot of the good stuff, a lot of the even more high-end stuff than what I saw while I was in the shop was not even in the shop that day. It was all down London at the convention. So really looking forward to going back to this shop with a better, more refreshed mind frame when I've had a bit more sleep and I'm not like balls deep in a project that I've been working on for 3 weeks, and going back and seeing some of the more high-end stuff in the shop and just being able to appreciate the shop in a different mind frame when I'm not tired and groggy. So yeah, overall, a successful mission, picked up what I needed, saw some real good stuff that I didn't expect to see, and also came back pretty inspired to check out some more of these retro game shops and game fairs and things like that moving forward. So if you'd like to see more content like that in the future, then don't forget to let me know down in the comments below, because I'm more than up for it. You know me, I'm up for anything. If it's retro, if it's cool, I'm down. I need to give a big shout out to my girl Rox and Bents and Judd, my crew that went with me that day and helped me film this episode. And I also want to give a massive shout out to my friend Simon. Now Simon is the guy that gave me the jacket that I'm wearing in this video. So this is an original varsity jacket from the movie set of Mighty Ducks 3. And I met Simon a few years ago because he runs a Mighty Ducks podcast, and over the years me and him have become great friends, and between him and other people that's been featured on his podcast, we've kind of created like our own unofficial worldwide fan club for the Mighty Ducks movies. I'm a massive fan of the Mighty Ducks movies. If you followed my channel for a while, you've probably seen me wearing jerseys and stuff before. I even had Justin Wong on this channel before, who plays Kenny Wu in Mighty Ducks 2 and 3. I love those movies, and meeting a bunch of guys that were all collectively so into those films as well was really good. And we, like I said, kind of created our own Mighty Ducks fan group, and we hook up and we've got a chat group and we do podcasts and all that kind of thing. And also, all the guys in that group are not just fans of the movies Mighty Ducks, but they're also big collectors of merch from the Mighty Ducks movies. So collectively as a group, those guys have hunted down and gathered a bunch of merchandise and actual real jerseys from those movies. From the Hawks jerseys to the Vikings jerseys, original Mighty Ducks jerseys, Trinidad Tobago jerseys, they've got all of it. And I was the only one in that group that didn't have an original piece of merch from the Mighty Ducks films. I've got Mighty Ducks jerseys, I've got repros, I've got cool stuff, I've got original like vintage ones, but I've got nothing that was actually screen used or from a film crew member. Up until Simon, when he sent me that original D3 jacket. And the reason he sent me this is because he also runs a One Tree Hill podcast, and we had one of the actors from One Tree Hill at the HorrorCon that we did last year, Craig Sheffer, who's also in Nightbreed and stuff like that. So I hooked up Simon with an interview with Craig Sheffer for his podcast, and as a thank you, he sent me that original Mighty Ducks 3 jacket. So that's now one of my prized possessions. It's the first time that I've wore it in a video, but I have rocked it around a couple of times, and I just wanted to shout him out for sending me that because it's obviously an awesome piece, and just shout out them other boys because they've got some really cool stuff in their collection. Not retro games, not retro toys, but something that's equally as cool, and it's so cool to see all the stuff that they put out. I'll also put links to Simon's podcast down in the description below so you can check out that and see some of the stuff that they collect, because they're a real nice bunch of lads and they've got a real awesome collection between them. So, that was our coverage of Doorway to Dorkness, a shop that was way bigger than I expected it to be and threw a lot more at me than I anticipated when I walked through those doors, but was pleasantly surprised. Did you enjoy the coverage? Did you see anything on those shop shelves that you would have not been able to leave without coming home with? Let me know in the comments below. Also, if there's anything that you ever want to message me about but you don't want to comment publicly, the best place to do that is over on Instagram at Theo_Kane_Slimehouse. And I've also got a Patreon. If you head over to patreon.com/SlimehouseTV, there's a couple of tiers on there, and they help make this channel bigger and better than ever and help me keep this channel growing. The perks that you get might have changed a little bit from what you've seen me mention in other videos. I'm switching everything up a little bit at the minute, but it's always cool stuff, so bear with me. And yeah man, like I said, it really does help me keep this channel going. If this is your first time checking out my channel, then you're very welcome. I'm Theo Kane, this is Slimehouse TV. You can always chop it up down below in the comments because we've got a bunch of awesome people here. A real toy community vibe where there's a lot of like-minded people that like to chop it up every week in the comments below. So please feel free to get involved in the comments if it's your first time checking out the channel. Don't forget to give this video a like if you enjoyed it and go back and binge the back catalogue. But until the next video, like I said, I'm Theo Kane, this is Slimehouse TV, and for now, I'm gone. Pow!